You ever get woken up in the middle of the night, not by a noise, but by something deeper, something mean that shakes you awake from the inside out? That's how it started for me. I didn't hear the fence snap. No, it was the ground itself vibrating like the land was angry. I shot up in bed, heart pounding, and before I knew it, I was stumbling into my boots. Elena, my wife, 7 months pregnant, and holding on to hope after so many years of heartbreak, was up too, clutching her belly wide-eyed in the dark. I grabbed that old mag light from the hook by the door, the one that feels like a baseball bat in your hand, and barreled outside into the muggy Texas dark. The flashlight cut through the blackness, and that's when I saw them. 3 silhouettes lit up by high-beam headlights. They were swinging sledgehammers all in sync, like it was their job to smash everything I loved. My grandpa Silas built that fence with his bare hands 50 years back. Teal and copper, the colors he wore when he was king of the quarter-horse track in Travis County. The fence wasn't just boards and nails. It was a piece of him. You ever see something you love, something with history, get turned to splinters right in front of you? I swear for a second I stopped breathing. And then there she was, Pamela Sterling. Clipboard in hand, grinning in that way only a certain kind of person can grin, the kind who thinks they own you just because they drive a fancy car. She didn't even blink when I started yelling. "You're violating neighborhood aesthetics." "Clay," she called, voice so sweet it burned like a lawyer's charm mixed with battery acid. She acted like she was untouchable, like nothing could touch her in her designer suit, not even the fact she was standing there in the dark helping tear apart the last thing that tied my family to this place. You know, the type, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Her husband runs a bank downtown. They drive around in that white G-Wagon thinking the world's just one big chess game and we're all here to make them feel powerful. That night she pushed too far. Because what Pamela didn't get was, you don't corner a man who's got nothing left to lose but the ground under his feet. And she definitely didn't get what this land means, not just to me, but to anyone who's ever worked it. Let me back up a second, because maybe you're sitting there thinking, it's just a fence, right? Just repaint it, move on. But it's never just a fence, not out here. My folks held on to these 40 acres while the rest of the world cashed out to developers. Suddenly Oak Creek Preserve sprouted up all around us. Rows of beige McMansions. Folks who think milk comes from a shelf, not a cow. My fence. It was a holdout, a bright-colored hell no to all that sameness. It was a reminder before the yoga studios and the HOA rules. This was cowboy country. A week before all hell broke loose, Pamela herself strutted up in a suit that probably cost more than my whole truck, waving some bylaw about earth tone compliance in my face. She demanded I paint the fence beige or pay fines I could never afford. I laughed then. Told her my ranch was here before her HOA was even an idea. She didn't laugh back. When I saw my grandpa's fence busted up on the ground the next morning, that laugh died in my throat. Reality came crashing in fast. Elena was in tears, stress putting her and the baby at risk. Then an email hit my inbox, not just a fine, but a lawsuit. Sterling and Associates coming after me for damages and property values, numbers so big they looked like phone numbers. I could see what they were doing, a slow bleed, hoping I'd sell out and crawl away. Grandpa always said you don't start a fight, but you damn well finish it. So instead of calling the big city lawyers, I drove to a strip mall on the edge of town. Harlan Ford, best legal mind in Willow Springs and the only guy I know who accepts payment in brisket. His office smelled like old coffee and hunting season. He laid it out. Pamela wasn't just after me. He had a map, 6 houses marked in red. The Millers, the Johnsons, the Garcias, all fined for tiny violations, all forced into foreclosure. You want to guess who bought those homes dirt cheap every single time? A shell company. But the address traced back to, you guessed it, Pamela Sterling. She was bleeding the neighborhood dry, using her husband's bank to snatch up homes for pennies. She'd found a loophole, and she was running the whole system. I felt sick. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Later that day, Tom Miller, my neighbor for 20 years, showed up. Tom's the kind of guy you split a case of beer with, the kind who helps pull a calf out of a mudslide without even being asked. But he couldn't look me in the eye. In his hand was a thick envelope. "I'm sorry, Clay," he said, voice shaking. Turns out Pamela had promised his kid Leo a full-ride scholarship, but only if Tom signed a statement saying my fence was an eyesore that ruined his property value. You ever been stabbed in the back by someone you'd have sworn would never do it? Tom left the affidavit right there on my porch. Signed. Legal. The truth is, this was never about colors. Pamela wanted every last independent soul gone. I watched Tom's old truck disappear down the road, and I realized defense wasn't going to cut it. She had money lawyers, even the county clerk, in her pocket. If I played by her rules, I'd lose everything. So I started digging. Nights spent hunched over county records, chasing leads across a laptop that sounded like it might burst into flames. Coffee anger and a whole lot of stubbornness kept me awake. And finally, just as the sun was coming up after 3 nights, I found it buried in a dusty old PDF from 1985. A plat map for Oak Creek Preserve. The streets Pamela strutted down like a queen, they weren't public at all. The main road, Creek View Lane, never accepted by the county. It was technically private. Ownership had bounced around for decades, ending up with a Mrs. Higgins, a widow in a nursing home 3 towns over. I barely slept before driving to Marble Falls to see her. Mrs. Higgins was sharper than most lawyers, let me tell you. She insulted my cat, offered me stale peanuts, and after a long talk about what Pamela had done to the neighborhood her father built, she let me buy that little strip of road for every dime I had set aside for our daughter's future. It was a risk, the kind that makes your hands shake when you sign the check, but sometimes you have to go all in. Did Pamela back off? Not a chance. She doubled down. Water main slashed code enforcement, crawling all over the property looking for any excuse to condemn the ranch. I knew she was scared, but she got mean. I woke up one morning to find trash spray painted across my barn in blood-red letters. The fumes made Elena sick. Pamela rolled by in her Mercedes, waving like a pageant queen. She thought she'd broken me. She didn't know me at all. Monday morning, sun barely up. Leo, Tom's boy, slipped out to help me. Guilt eats at a kid. We dragged concrete barriers across Creek View Lane and blocked the only entrance to Oak Creek. I hammered a sign into the pavement myself. Private property. Road closed for repairs. Owner Clayton Mercer. Pamela was first to hit the barricade, Mercedes screeching to a stop. I just sat on my truck tailgate, coffee in hand. She lost it, screaming about meetings, the zoning board, threats of legal Armageddon. I handed her a copy of the deed, told her the road was unsafe, might take years to fix. She turned white as chalk. You could see it, she finally understood. But there was more to it. Leo had tipped me off Pamela's been collecting homes not for profit, but to bundle them for a luxury resort deal. She needed the road open by November 1st, or the whole contract would implode. The loans they'd taken out to grab those homes would eat them alive. And now I held the keys. She tried to paint me as some madman on the local news, unstable veteran with a stockpile, that sort of thing. Neighbors turned up at the barricade, shouting, even spitting at my feet. Elena was scared, but I stood firm. You ever get so tired of being pushed that fear just sort of disappears? Then came the bribe. Richard Sterling himself, usually all smug and buttoned up, showed up sweating through his shirt, waving a briefcase full of cash. $400,000. Walk away, Clay. I could have taken it. Would have solved a lot of problems on paper. But I said no. And here's where the story pivots, because what Richard didn't know, I was wired up recording every word. The real showdown happened at the Willow Springs Community Center 4 days before Pamela's deadline. The place was packed hot as an oven full of neighbors and reporters and city council folks. Pamela strutted up first, acting like the hero, showing pictures of my ghastly fence, the roadblock, painting me as a villain out to destroy the community. She called her surprise witness Tom Miller. My gut dropped. If Tom got up and lied, I'd be finished. But he stood there silent for the longest time, then finally looked up at me and at Leo sitting in the back. And Tom told the truth. There were no threats. Clay Mercer is the best man I know. I took a bribe from Pamela Sterling, lied about him because she promised my son a scholarship. The whole place exploded. Pamela shrieked, her lawyer shouting objections. But Tom just kept going, voice finally steady. She's trying to bankrupt us all so she can build her resort. And then my lawyer Harlan plugged his laptop into the speakers. Out came Richard Sterling's voice, clear as day, threatening me at the barricade. Then Leo's secret recording, Pamela herself saying, if we don't get the road open by the 1st, we lose the investors and the bank will uncover the embezzlement. Dead silence. You could hear the air conditioner hum. Pamela was frozen for once. The police chief started down the aisle, slow and steady. In the end, Pamela and Richard were both arrested. Fraud, extortion, conspiracy. The Houston deal died, and with it their whole ugly empire. The subdivision never got its luxury resort. You know what we did after we held a fence-raising party? The whole neighborhood turned out. Tom was there, sleeves rolled up, doing his best to make things right. Folks painted the new fence every color they could find, neon purple, electric lime, and of course Grandpa Silas's teal and copper. We didn't just fix a fence, we rebuilt trust. I handed over ownership of the road to a community trust so nobody could ever play king again. No more fines for picking the wrong shade of beige. The HOA. We turned it into a volunteer board that actually helped fixing potholes, organizing block parties. Elena gave birth to our daughter Rose 2 months later. She's walking now, tiny hands brushing along the rainbow fence that guards our land. That fence, it's not just wood and paint. It's proof that you can't bulldoze history, and you damn sure can't buy a man's soul if he remembers what it's worth. But it makes you think, doesn't it? In a world obsessed with property values and curb appeal, where's the line between keeping up a neighborhood and erasing the people in it? When does a community stop being a home and turn into just another business deal? They tried to bury us, but they forgot we were seeds. Watching my little girl chasing butterflies along that fence, I know this. The best payback isn't destroying your enemies. It's living so well, so loud, so full of color that they can't ignore you. So tell me, if you'd been in my boots, would you have taken the money, or would you have bought the road? Ever gone to war with an HOA yourself? Drop your story below, or tell me if you think I went too far. One thing's for sure around here, we're not painting anything beige ever again.